If you're thinking about buying the digital edition of Brass Birmingham, in 15 minutes I'll take you through the complete introductory game and offer my impressions, criticisms, and thoughts on strategy in the Canal Era game, here on Legendary Tactics. Alright, so this is the early access version of the game. I'll dive in with 3 AIs here. I'm playing as Sir Henry Bessemer, the yellow player. If you haven't played this game before, this is a great starting place. This is a game for those of you who love Euros and love infrastructure building, and also those who love growing an economic empire. So I like to start just by having a look at where my cards are and seeing where I should maybe begin to develop some industry and what options I have. There's lots of early options. If you want to get your income up, I mean, coal is probably the way you're going to want to go. Beer seems to be absolutely fundamental to any civilization or any infrastructure building game like this one, so beer might be a way to go to score some big points. I find playing this game, going from the board game over to the digital game, is a little bit disorienting at the start, just acclimatizing yourself to where everything's located. You don't see at a glance, for example, the development board, but that's okay, you can get to it fairly quickly. So this game moves really fast. There's only 8 rounds. It plays till the end of the Canal Era. And I'll let you watch what the AI is doing. I actually noticed the AI tends to build a lot of canals in the Canal Era, a lot of links, which I don't think that's maybe the best idea. And you might ask yourself this question too: why is the computer building or developing particular powers in a game that ends before you can actually really make good use of those? And I think there's a few good reasons for this. I'll probably do the same once I get some basic infrastructure down, but this game will project, it'll give us what our scores actually are, and then it will project what our scores would be if the game were to continue longer. So this is just a really quick overview of the game so you can get a little bit of flavor for it and see if you like it. So I've been waiting for the digital implementation of this game to get some real play time under my belt. I just find it sometimes hard with human players to get a lot of play of a game. So this is the beginning of my journey for that. So I'm just thinking here, I mean, I'm gonna get some coal down. So that's great. That will increase the income by 4. So it's a good way to get your income up. It's not gonna score you a lot of points, which is something that I probably need to be thinking about quite seriously in an abbreviated game like this. But so I'm still relatively inexperienced at this game, so please forgive any mistakes or errors that you see. But I will offer my thoughts on strategy, and feel free to argue against those or to support them if you think I'm right. My intuition is what I'm relying on in this game to see what I think is a good call. So I'm just looking at getting connected there, Gloucester, and getting up. Oh, I'd like to get some beer going so I can start to score some points. But what this means for you also in this game is that you'll get to see how good the AI is, knowing that I'm not a fantastic player. I haven't played thousands of games of this, so if I can beat the AI, then there's a good chance the AI is pretty terrible in this. But if they give me a run for my money, then they might be sort of intermediate level, and if they absolutely destroy me, then they might actually put up a good fight against a strong player. So I think taking a loan early on is almost essential. I think in a regular length game, probably 2 to 3 loans throughout the game would be very reasonable and typical. So I'm going to get the beer going there, score 4 victory points. Also get some income. I need to offset some of the loan. I imagine someone else will use my beer before I get a chance to use it. One thing I notice in this game, you'll see this as we get to the end, that points at the end, the scoring happens automatically, and that's both a blessing and a curse. I love it in these digital games because it's easy and it's 100% correct, which is great. Rules are enforced. But I don't love it because suddenly all these points start popping up and you have no idea. I mean, as a new player, you don't really know how you're scoring them. So that can be a bit problematic for understanding and getting better at a game. So I do think it is worth playing the cardboard game, so you get a real understanding of how and why your scoring actually happens. Okay, so that guy's red player is really going into the hole here. James de Rothschild. Oh, and he's completing in Worcester. So yes, as everybody knows, beer is a fundamental resource for any society, especially in this game. So I'll be definitely going for some beer here. I do have a beer card. Let's build that. The game is nice how the cards pop up. I really enjoy that. It lets you know exactly what card you should be thinking about discarding or what card you need to discard. And so I'll look for the sell action here. It takes a little bit to get to know the iconography of the game. And I'll have to discard a card that I don't think I'm going to use. And let's convert that for some points. Use my own beer. That also prevents your opponents from using your beer, which can stall them a little bit. And you can see that the little hexagon with the almost looks like a light weight in there. That's for links. You score link points for that one at game's end. One thing you might notice is there's a lot of clanking sounds, and I actually find that this game is almost unlistenable without music. It's just clanking all the time, and I don't find it a very pleasant sound. So that is really unfortunate. But overall, the game seems to play fairly smoothly. I'm usually a little bit reticent about people or companies releasing games in early access and depending on people like me to critique them publicly before they fix all of the problems. I much prefer if a game fixes everything and puts it out in full form. I had that problem with Blood Rage, where it just came out and it was just a piece of garbage. And I confess I haven't really gone back to it since as a result of that. And that's a bit problematic for me. So my intuition tells me I should lean away from laying too many canals in the Canal Era, which, as I've told you, that's the only era in this game. I don't know if that's a great idea or not. I'd have to play quite a bit more, but please let me know in the comments if you like to lay a lot of canals early or if you prefer to hold off. No beer. Oh man, I just can't build without beer. So yeah, it seems fairly critical as a first build, see, then you can score your points. So I should do some links. I mean, you can score 4 or 5 victory points for your links. And good to get connected to the, so that you can sell and score more points that way. But it does seem like getting iron out in the canal phase would be a good strategy to boost your income. So my income's at +6. We've got George's is at 0. Ooh, and Sambard is up to 8, so he's ahead of me now. That's actually one of the strategies that I'm sort of focusing on, is I'd like to stay ahead in overall income. And this red player, he is just all over the bank. He's down to -1. That's the end of that round. So we're on to round 6. So there's only 8 rounds in this early game. But as I say, loans seem to be fairly critical early on. I could see people actually doing a loan right in the first turn, so you can jump right out of the gates. But strategies, I'm thinking, I'm tossing around 3 different strategies. One would be focusing on income, so that I can outbuy everybody, and I like that passive income, so you're not spending a lot of time or a lot of resources wasting your pounds on the loans and turns too. I mean, it takes one of your actions to do that. So if you can avoid that and sustain your growth, let's get some more beer going. Everybody loves a good beer. There we go. See how long that lasts. Also, it is very nice with this implementation that it really lets you know, like, what are you doing now? Well, now it's telling me in the bottom right I have to select a card to discard. Now it's telling me to select an industry that I want to sell. It highlights the industry that I want to sell. So for a player learning this game, you can pick it up fairly quickly. And then when you need to spend resources in the bottom left, it zooms right in on that and highlights those cubes so that you know exactly where you're going. All right, another round is down. So back to the thought about strategy. So number 1 would be focusing on income, so I can outbuy everybody. 2 would be focusing on coal and iron early on. I think if you pick a lane and go down that path in the Canal Era, it seems that coal and iron might be a good option, just to get yourself rolling, get your infrastructure going, and have really good income. I think a third strategy, and a very different strategy, would be to focus on level 2+ buildings. So do lots of development. And I think development is something that is probably very much underrated in this game. It seems like a bit of a wasted turn, but if you think about the extra efficiency that you get from your buildings, early on they're not very efficient at all. And if you can boost them up, the other bonus too is that if you can develop those technologies and get a level 2+, it doesn't disappear at the end of the Canal Age. That doesn't apply to me in this game as much, but in a regular game, you could actually score those twice then, if you get them up 1 time. So that seems very efficient. You sacrifice a couple of turns developing in order to prepare for that. So the game does force you to develop if you don't do it on your own. So I mean, you're gonna need to do this anyway, so why not do it early? Yeah, let's get my links together here. Get a nice path going there. So, also in this game, it seems like I could focus on either scoring big with the VPs, or I could set up the strong infrastructure. But because of this being the intro game, it seems like the former is the better of the 2 ideas. So, one thing at this point I am having trouble with this interface is just seeing sort of where my my victory points are at, because it's showing that I'm at 0-0 there. So it seems doesn't give me a really good sense of where I'm at and what I would need to do to get where I need to go. All I really know is how much money I've got and how much income I have, which, by the way, I will point out to you is +11. So I'm scoring well on that. Sam Bard is at +8. That's not bad. He's doing all right. So it looks like I'm mostly out of possible avenues here. So there's really not much I can do. Scouting to replace my cards, I mean, it's not going to do me a lot of good this late in the game. So just as an inexperienced player, this is where I'm like, don't really have that much that's worthwhile. But you know what? Let's see about developing. Just kind of, because I'm new to this, I'm just clicking through here to see, do I actually have any options? And so development, if I can move up those tracks a little bit. Let's develop up the beer. There we go. I think that will help my endgame score somewhat then. So overall, in terms of the aesthetic, it looks really nice. I like how when you're playing with different player counts, the board has sort of fog that goes over different parts of the map so that it limits the size of your city. I think that's a really nice feature. There is a nice, I mean, I can see everything well, so there's a nice zoom point, I would say. It doesn't feel like well, when it zooms out like that, you get the real scope for how big the map is. Here we go on scoring victory points, and this is where it gets a little bit overwhelming, where you're like, wow, who's getting points and what are they getting them for? Wow, they're just flying out. It's a little bit hard to process everything that's going on there, and maybe that's just because I'm a rookie. But and wow, the scores are just sort of jumping around wildly. But I guess they'd like it to look as if it's a real foot race to the end of the game here. Ooh, 51. Okay, that's 58. All right. So for the introductory game, it looks like I've tied here with 35 points. Violet's won it with 42. And blue and I are tied, and then poor red, man, that guy he borrowed way too much money and never really got anything going. But if we scaled this up, then I would win the game. 58 points here, it's projecting. Violet would have 53, blue's at 47, red's at 27. Overall, pretty solid. I think I need to give this game quite a few more plays to really see, to really understand the game. And once we practice a bit, we'll have to look at doing a strategy guide. Thanks so much for your time. If you got value out of this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and really appreciate you coming to check us out. This is Legendary Tactics.